Go ahead, old man. Show everybody how tough you are. Tyler Whitmore held his phone chest high, the camera light glowing like a tiny red eye in the fading afternoon. Samuel Brooks stood 10 feet away near the iron fence of Riverside Park, one hand resting on the strap of a worn canvas bag, the other hanging loose at his side. Behind Tyler, Connor Blake laughed too loudly while Mason Reed watched the growing live stream count over his shoulder. A basketball bounced somewhere beyond the trees. Sneakers squeaked against the court. A city bus sighed at the curb on Walnut Street. Ordinary sounds. Ordinary people. But in the narrow strip of pavement between the benches and the fence, the air had gone strangely still. Samuel looked at the three teenagers, then at the phone aimed at his face. He was 70 years old, tall despite the slight bend in his shoulders, dressed in a brown jacket that had seen better winters and walking shoes worn pale around the edges. His gray hair was cut close. His expression held no panic, no anger, just a quiet exhaustion that Tyler mistook for weakness. "Come on," Tyler said, grinning toward the camera. "You got something to say?" Samuel's eyes moved from Tyler's face to his stance, then to the crowd beginning to form near the walking path. A woman with a golden retriever had stopped 20 yards away. Two college students slowed near a bench. An older man lowered his newspaper. Samuel noticed all of them without turning his head. Old habits. Details first. Breathing second. Pride last. He had spent decades teaching himself that order. "Put the phone away, son," Samuel said. His voice was low enough that Tyler leaned forward to hear it. That made Connor laugh again. "He called you son." Tyler's smile tightened. "I'm not your son." Samuel nodded once. "No, you're not." Something about the answer landed differently than Tyler expected. There was no insult in it. No challenge. That somehow made it worse. Tyler stepped sideways, blocking the open path toward the park entrance. Mason mirrored him on the other side, still trying to look amused. Samuel glanced toward the opening between them, then back at Tyler. "I came here for some quiet," he said. "You can have your video somewhere else." Tyler turned the phone toward himself for half a second. "You hearing this? Man thinks he owns the park." The viewer count climbed. Comments flashed too quickly to read. Tyler's confidence rose with every number. Samuel watched that transformation happen in real time. A boy performing for strangers. A face hardening because an audience was watching. He had seen that look before, though not on a phone screen. Long ago, it had lived under bright arena lights, beneath ropes and roaring crowds, on men who believed being watched meant they could never step back. Samuel lowered his canvas bag to the pavement. Not quickly, not dramatically. He simply set it beside his shoe. Tyler noticed. So did Connor. The laughter faded a little. "What?" Tyler asked. "You finally mad?" Samuel looked at the glowing phone again. Then he looked directly into Tyler's eyes. For the first time, the teenager's grin slipped. Samuel's voice stayed calm. "You don't know what you're asking me to remember." The breeze moved through the sycamore leaves above them. Somewhere behind the fence, the basketball stopped bouncing. Tyler stared at the old man, waiting for a joke, a threat, anything he could turn into content. Samuel gave him nothing, just that steady gaze and the strange stillness of someone who had spent a lifetime learning exactly when not to move. 40 minutes earlier, Samuel Brooks had entered Riverside Park through the west gate with a canvas bag over one shoulder and 2 paper cups of coffee balanced carefully in his right hand. The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the walking path, turning the edges of the sycamore leaves gold. Families moved between picnic tables. A little girl chased soap bubbles near the fountain. Somewhere beyond the trees, a radio played an old soul song softly enough to blend with the traffic. Samuel walked at the same measured pace he always used, neither hurried nor slow, as if each step belonged to a routine older than the park itself. At 70, he had learned not to rush mornings, apologies, or memories. His left knee complained when the weather changed, and Philadelphia had been threatening rain since noon, but he ignored the familiar stiffness. He stopped at a small coffee stand near the basketball courts. The young cashier already knew his order. 1 black coffee, 1 with cream and 2 sugars. Samuel thanked her, left $1 in the tip jar, and continued toward a wooden bench beneath a broad sycamore tree. A small brass plaque was fixed to the backrest. "In loving memory of Evelyn Brooks." Samuel sat down carefully. He placed the sweeter coffee on the empty space beside him. "They raised the price again," he murmured. You would have complained for 10 minutes and bought it anyway. A faint smile touched his face. Evelyn had been gone 4 years, but some habits refused to understand death. Samuel still bought 2 coffees every Thursday. He still carried the canvas bag she had given him for his 65th birthday. He still looked toward the apartment door some evenings expecting to hear her keys. The park had been their place long before the memorial plaque appeared. They had walked these paths when his hair was still black, when their bills were larger than their savings, when Sunday afternoons meant sandwiches wrapped in foil and arguments about which radio station played the better music. Samuel lifted his cup. The coffee smelled bitter and warm. For several minutes, he simply listened. Wind through leaves. A bicycle bell. Basketballs striking pavement in steady rhythms. Those sounds settled him. They were simple, predictable, nothing like the sounds from another life he rarely discussed anymore. He glanced toward the recreation center across the lawn. Through the glass doors, he could see heavy bags hanging motionless beneath fluorescent lights. Samuel looked away before the memories could sharpen. That part of him belonged to old photographs and dusty newspaper clippings now. He preferred being the quiet man who fed pigeons near the fountain and remembered birthdays without needing reminders. He finished half his coffee, stood, and picked up the second untouched cup. Same time next week, he told the empty bench. Then he slipped the cup into a nearby trash bin and continued down the path. Near the basketball courts, 3 teenagers were laughing around a phone. One of them, a tall white boy in a varsity jacket, glanced at Samuel as he passed. Their eyes met for less than a second. Samuel kept walking. Behind him, the laughter stopped. Then footsteps turned in his direction. Tyler Whitmore had not come to Riverside Park looking for Samuel Brooks. He had come looking for attention. At 17, Tyler had learned that a phone camera could turn almost anything into an audience, and an audience could make an ordinary afternoon feel important. Connor Blake handled most of the filming because his hands stayed steady. Mason Reed watched the comments and announced the viewer count every few minutes like a sports score. Their videos had started harmlessly enough months earlier. Ridiculous questions at the mall, fake arguments over parking spaces, challenges that ended with everyone laughing. But harmless stopped getting reactions. Reactions were what Tyler wanted. The louder the comments became, the further he pushed. That afternoon, the 3 boys had already spent nearly an hour wandering around Riverside Park searching for something worth posting. Tyler wore a navy varsity jacket over a gray sweatshirt, his blonde hair falling across his forehead every time the wind picked up. Connor wore a baseball cap backward and carried the phone on a small stabilizer. Mason kept refreshing the social media page. "We need something better," Tyler said. "Nobody cares about another basketball challenge." Connor lowered the camera. "We could just call it." Tyler looked at him as if he had suggested going home before halftime. "It is not even 5 yet." Then Samuel passed them. Brown jacket, canvas bag, slow, measured steps. 70 years old and completely uninterested in the 3 teenagers by the court. Tyler watched him for a moment. "There," he said. Mason followed his gaze. "The old guy." Tyler smiled. "Exactly." Connor hesitated. "What are you going to do?" "Relax. Talk to him." But the tone in Tyler's voice already carried something sharper than conversation. They followed Samuel onto the walking path. At first, Tyler called out something casual. Samuel did not turn around. Mason laughed. Tyler tried again, louder this time. "Hey, sir. Got a second?" Samuel kept walking. That should have ended it. Instead, Connor raised the phone. The small camera light came on. Tyler saw it, and his posture changed. His shoulders widened. His voice became performative. "Guess he is too important to talk to us." Samuel heard him. He also heard Mason chuckle and the soft scrape of Connor's shoes behind him. He did not increase his pace. Tyler moved closer and began making remarks about Samuel's clothes, his age, the neighborhood he probably came from. Then his words shifted toward the kind of assumptions Samuel had heard in different forms for most of his life. Assumptions about black men, about where they belonged, about how much respect they deserved. Tyler avoided saying anything he thought would get the video removed, but the meaning was clear enough. Samuel stopped beside a row of empty benches. He turned slowly. Tyler expected anger. What he found was disappointment. "You boys finished?" Samuel asked. Connor lowered the phone slightly. Mason looked away. Tyler did neither. "We are just having fun." Samuel glanced at the camera. Fun usually has more than one person laughing. Connor's smile disappeared. Tyler gave a short laugh and stepped closer, careful to stay several feet away. You always this serious? Samuel studied him for a moment. He noticed the clean varsity jacket, the expensive sneakers, the nervous energy hiding beneath Tyler's grin. He had known boys like him before. Not evil. Not yet. Just hungry for approval and too inexperienced to understand what it could cost. Go enjoy your afternoon, Samuel said. I am enjoying it. Tyler looked toward Connor. The camera rose again. Samuel turned and continued walking. Behind him, Mason whispered, "Leave him alone, man." Tyler heard him. So did Samuel. For 3 steps, it seemed the moment might end there. Then Tyler looked at the viewer count on Connor's screen. More people were joining. His expression changed. "Come on," he said, following Samuel again. "We finally got something interesting." Samuel kept walking, but the rhythm of his steps changed. Not enough for Tyler to notice. Not enough for Connor to understand. Just a fraction slower, a fraction more deliberate, as if the old man had suddenly become aware of every inch of pavement beneath his shoes. Behind him, Tyler continued talking for the camera, throwing out jokes that sounded less confident each time Samuel refused to react. The path narrowed near a line of sycamore trees, with the basketball courts on one side and a low iron fence on the other. Samuel could hear all 3 boys clearly now. Connor was breathing through his mouth. Mason dragged the heel of one sneaker when he walked. Tyler was closest, maybe 6 feet behind. Samuel did not look back. He did not need to. For most people, footsteps were only noise. For Samuel, they had once been information. Distance, balance, intention, timing. His body remembered things his mind had spent years trying to forget. When Tyler moved toward his left side, Samuel shifted slightly toward the center of the path without thinking. When Connor stepped closer with the phone, Samuel angled his shoulders so he could see the reflection in the dark glass of a park information board ahead. Small adjustments. Nothing threatening. Nothing dramatic. But precise. Tyler noticed one of them. "Why do you keep moving like that?" he asked. Samuel stopped near a drinking fountain. He turned. "Like what?" Tyler opened his mouth, then hesitated. He did not know how to explain it. Samuel looked tired. His jacket was old. His gray hair moved softly in the breeze. Yet every time Tyler tried to stand directly in front of him, the old man somehow ended up with open space beside him. It felt accidental until it happened again. Connor lowered the phone an inch. "Maybe we should leave him alone." Tyler glanced at the screen. The number of viewers had doubled. "We are not doing anything." Samuel heard that sentence and almost smiled, though there was no humor in it. He had heard versions of it before. People said it when they wanted permission from themselves. "Then let me walk," Samuel said. His voice stayed even. Tyler stepped aside for half a second, then moved back into the path as Samuel approached. Samuel stopped again, leaving several feet between them. His eyes went briefly to Tyler's shoulders, then his hands, then his feet. It was automatic. The same sequence had lived inside him for more than 40 years. He hated how quickly it returned. A memory flashed without permission. Bright overhead lights. Canvas beneath his shoes. A bell somewhere beyond the noise. Samuel blinked once, and Riverside Park came back into focus. Children near the fountain. A dog pulling at its leash. Evelyn's empty bench somewhere behind him. He drew a slow breath through his nose. "You all have somewhere else to be," Samuel said. Mason looked embarrassed now. "He is right." Tyler ignored him. "Why are you acting like you are not scared?" Samuel studied the teenager carefully. There it was. The real question beneath everything else. Tyler did not understand calm unless it came from power. Samuel understood that mistake better than he wanted to. "Because fear does not always look the way you think it does," he said. A gust of wind carried dry leaves across the path between them. Connor's camera followed Samuel's face. Samuel glanced toward it, then back to Tyler. His hands remained open at his sides. His shoulders stayed loose. Every instinct from his old life told him how quickly a tense moment could become something else. Every lesson from the years after told him that knowing what you could do was never the same as needing to do it. Samuel stepped toward the open side of the path. Tyler moved again. This time Samuel stopped before they were close. The old man exhaled slowly. "Do not confuse patience with permission," he said. Tyler's smile faded, just for a second. Tyler's smile returned, but it looked thinner now, stretched over something uncertain. The people near the walking path had begun to notice the tension, not because anyone was shouting, but because Samuel Brooks refused to give the moment the shape Tyler wanted. There was no panic to capture, no angry outburst, no embarrassing reaction for the live stream. Just an elderly man standing beneath the sycamore trees with his hands open at his sides and a calm expression that made Tyler increasingly restless. "Patience," Tyler repeated, glancing at Connor's phone. "You talk like some kind of philosopher." Connor did not laugh this time. Mason stared at the pavement. Samuel reached down for his canvas bag. "I am just trying to go home." He lifted the strap toward his shoulder, but Tyler stepped sideways again, still several feet away, trying to keep the camera between them. "Why are you in such a hurry now?" Samuel looked past him toward the west gate. The afternoon light had softened, turning the park benches amber at the edges. He could almost hear Evelyn telling him what she had told him hundreds of times when pride tried to make a decision for him. "You do not have to win every room you walk into." Samuel took a breath. "Because this stopped being funny a while ago." Mason finally spoke. "Tyler, seriously. Let him go." Tyler looked at his friend, then at the viewer count. More comments appeared. Some encouraged him. Others told him to stop. Tyler focused only on the first kind. "Nobody is stopping him," he said. Samuel stepped toward the open side of the path. Tyler moved too quickly to stay in front of the camera, and his shoulder brushed the edge of Samuel's canvas bag. The bag slipped from Samuel's hand and landed softly on the pavement. A folded newspaper slid halfway out. So did an old brown cap Samuel had tucked inside after the wind picked up earlier. The cap rolled once and stopped near Tyler's sneaker. Samuel went completely still. Connor lowered the phone. "Man," he whispered. "Pick that up." Tyler looked down. The cap was faded at the brim, ordinary except for a tiny photograph tucked beneath the inner band. The picture had come loose when it fell. It showed Samuel years younger beside Evelyn, both smiling beneath summer sunlight, her hand resting against his chest. Samuel crouched slowly and picked up the photograph before the breeze could take it. His fingers were careful around the worn edges. For the first time that afternoon, something changed in his face. Not anger. Something quieter. Something older. Tyler noticed it and stopped talking. Samuel brushed a speck of dust from Evelyn's picture with his thumb. "She hated that hat," he said softly, almost to himself. "Said it made me look 20 years older." A faint warmth touched his eyes and disappeared. He returned the photograph to the cap and placed both inside the bag. Connor's camera was still pointed downward. Mason shifted uncomfortably. "We should go," he said. Tyler could have ended it there. For one brief second, Samuel thought he might. Then Tyler glanced at the phone and saw the audience waiting. Pride stepped back into his face. "It was an accident," he said. Samuel straightened. "I know." That answer seemed to confuse Tyler more than blame would have. Samuel adjusted the canvas strap over his shoulder and looked at all three boys. His voice stayed low. "Walk away." 2 simple words. No threat behind them. No raised voice. Yet Connor looked at Tyler immediately, and Mason took half a step backward. Tyler remained where he was. Somewhere on the basketball court, a whistle sounded. The sun slipped behind a cloud, and the path briefly lost its warmth. Samuel watched the teenager's eyes move toward the phone again and understood the real problem. Tyler was no longer trying to impress his friends. He was trying not to disappoint strangers he would never meet. Tyler stood exactly where he was, caught between the quiet certainty in Samuel's voice and the glowing screen in Connor's hand. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The wind moved across Riverside Park, carrying the smell of cut grass and coffee from the stand near the basketball courts. Samuel could hear the distant traffic beyond the trees, but the space around the four of them felt strangely sealed off from the rest of the city. Mason finally shook his head. "I am done with this." He stepped away from Tyler and moved toward the benches. Connor lowered the phone again. "He asked us to leave." Tyler glanced at him. "So?" Connor looked uncomfortable. "So maybe we leave." Tyler stared at the live stream count. More people were watching now than at any point that afternoon. Some comments were laughing. Some were asking what was happening. Others were telling Tyler to stop. Samuel could see the conflict on the boy's face even from several feet away. Tyler knew the moment should end. He simply did not know how to end it without feeling embarrassed. Samuel understood that kind of pride. He had seen it in locker rooms, offices, bars, family kitchens, anywhere people confused backing down with losing. "The phone is not your friend," Samuel said. Tyler looked up. "What is that supposed to mean?" Samuel nodded toward Connor's hand. You are making decisions for people who will forget your name tomorrow. Connor glanced at the screen as if seeing it differently for the first time. Tyler gave a short laugh. You think you know me? No, Samuel said. That is the point. You do not know me either. The words settled between them. Tyler shifted his weight. His confidence had become restless energy now, and Samuel watched carefully as the boy moved closer, not aggressively, but too quickly, trying to reposition himself for the camera. Tyler's foot caught the edge of a raised section of pavement. His balance disappeared for a second. Samuel reacted before thought could catch up. One hand moved to Tyler's forearm, the other steadied his shoulder, guiding him back upright with a smoothness so quick and controlled that Connor almost missed it. Tyler froze. Samuel released him immediately and stepped back. No force. No spectacle. Just instinct. You all right? Samuel asked. Tyler stared at him. Yeah. His voice was quieter now. Connor looked from Tyler to Samuel. How did you do that? Samuel ignored the question. He picked up his canvas bag and checked that the old cap was still inside. Tyler looked down at the place where Samuel had caught him, then back at the old man's hands. Something had changed. Those hands no longer looked fragile. They looked practiced, deliberate. Mason noticed it too from several yards away. Tyler, he called. Come on. Tyler did not move. His embarrassment had transformed into curiosity, and curiosity was safer than admitting he had been wrong. What were you? He asked. Samuel's expression tightened slightly. What do you mean? Nobody moves like that by accident. Samuel looked toward the recreation center across the lawn. Through its glass entrance, someone had stepped outside. A woman in her 50s wearing a navy staff jacket stopped halfway down the steps and narrowed her eyes toward the path. Samuel saw her before she saw him clearly. His shoulders lowered almost imperceptibly. That was a long time ago, he said. Tyler followed his gaze. The woman took 3 steps closer, then stopped completely. Her face changed from confusion to disbelief. Samuel, she called. He closed his eyes for one brief second. When he opened them, she was already walking toward him. Samuel Brooks? Her voice carried across the path. Then she smiled with the stunned recognition of someone seeing a ghost from a better time. Champ. The word hung in the air longer than it should have. Champ. Tyler looked at Connor. Connor looked at Mason. Samuel Brooks did not move. The woman from the recreation center crossed the last few yards with a mixture of disbelief and warmth on her face. She was Denise Carter, 54, director of the community athletic program, and one of the few people in the neighborhood who still remembered exactly what Samuel had once meant to the city. I knew that was you, she said, almost laughing. I just could not believe my eyes. Samuel gave her a small nod. Hello, Denise. Tyler glanced between them. Wait, you know him? Denise turned toward the teenagers, then noticed Connor's phone. Her expression changed. Why are you filming him? Connor lowered the device completely. It is a long story. Mason muttered. Not really. Samuel looked at Denise before she could ask anything else. It is fine. It does not look fine. It will be. Denise studied him for a second, then looked back at Tyler. Do you know who you are talking to? Tyler shrugged, but there was less confidence in it now. Some guy you know. Denise gave a quiet breath of disbelief. Some guy. She looked at Samuel again, as if asking permission. He already knew what was coming. Denise, he said softly. Leave it. But Tyler had heard enough to become curious. No. What is she talking about? Samuel looked toward the trees. The sky had turned pale gold above the rooftops, and the park lights were beginning to flicker on one by one. He had spent years becoming ordinary on purpose. He liked being the man who carried groceries for Mrs. Lewis upstairs. The man who remembered the cashier's birthday. The man who sat beside Evelyn's memorial bench every Thursday with 2 coffees. Fame had once followed him into grocery stores and airports. Now almost nobody looked twice. That peace had taken a long time to earn. Denise folded her arms. Samuel Brooks was not always just a man walking through this park. Samuel gave her a tired look. Denise. She softened. I know. But maybe they should understand who they decided to make fun of. Tyler's eyes narrowed. What did he do? Denise pointed toward the recreation center behind her. Come inside. Samuel shook his head. There is no need. There is every need. Connor finally spoke. Maybe we should just apologize and go. Tyler ignored him. His attention was fixed on Samuel now. Not because he was afraid, but because the old man had become a mystery, and Tyler hated mysteries he could not control. Denise turned and began walking toward the building. 5 minutes, she said. Then everybody can decide what kind of afternoon they want to remember. Samuel remained still. Mason had already started after her. Connor followed more slowly. Tyler waited, watching Samuel. You coming? Samuel looked at the boy. You wanted an audience, he said. Be careful what you learn in front of one. Then he adjusted the canvas bag on his shoulder and walked toward the recreation center. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of floor cleaner, rubber mats, and old wood. Trophy cases lined one wall. Youth basketball photos covered another. Denise walked past all of them toward a narrow hallway leading to the boxing room. Samuel stopped at the entrance. The room was quiet now, the heavy bag still, the ring empty beneath rows of fluorescent lights. On the far wall hung a collection of framed photographs from decades earlier. Denise switched on one more light. Tyler stepped closer. His face changed before he said a word. In the largest photograph stood a much younger Samuel Brooks, broad-shouldered, smiling beneath arena lights, a championship belt resting across his waist. Beneath the picture, a small brass plate read, Samuel Stone Brooks, Philadelphia Golden Champion, Community Coach. Tyler stared at the photograph, then slowly turned toward the elderly man beside him. Samuel did not smile. Now you know, he said. Tyler kept staring at the photograph as if the younger man on the wall and the elderly man beside him could not possibly be the same person. Connor stepped closer to the brass plate and read it again under his breath. Mason said nothing. The boxing room had become so quiet that the hum of the fluorescent lights sounded unusually loud. Samuel stood near the doorway with his canvas bag over one shoulder, looking less like a legend than a man who wished the past had stayed where he left it. Denise walked toward a second frame farther down the wall. That picture is only part of it, she said. Samuel sighed. Denise, they have seen enough. Maybe not. She pointed to a faded newspaper clipping protected beneath glass. The headline mentioned Samuel Brooks winning a major regional championship more than 40 years earlier. Another photograph showed him standing beside a group of children inside the same recreation center, though the walls had been painted a different color then. Tyler moved closer. You coached here? Samuel nodded. For a while. Denise gave him a look. For 22 years. Samuel glanced at her. That still counts as a while. For the first time since the boys entered the building, Connor almost smiled. Denise continued down the wall. There were team pictures from different years, children growing into teenagers, teenagers returning as adults, some wearing graduation gowns, police uniforms, business suits, hospital scrubs. Samuel appeared in many of the photographs, always somewhere near the edge, never holding the trophy himself. He helped keep this program open when the city cut funding, Denise said. He trained kids who could not afford membership, bought equipment when nobody knew where the money came from, drove people home after evening practice because their parents were working late. Samuel looked toward the empty ring. People helped me when I was young. I returned the favor. Tyler studied him differently now. The old brown jacket had not changed. The worn shoes had not changed. The gray hair, the tired eyes, the canvas bag, all of it remained exactly the same. Only Tyler's understanding had changed. Why did you not tell us? He asked. Samuel looked at him. Would it have made me deserve more respect? Tyler opened his mouth, but no answer came. Samuel took a step farther into the room. That is the problem, son. If you need somebody to have a championship on the wall before you treat them like a person, then the championship is not what you need to learn about. Mason lowered his eyes. Connor's phone remained pointed toward the floor. Tyler looked back at the photograph, then at the comments still appearing on the screen. The audience had followed them inside. People had begun recognizing Samuel's name. Some posted old memories. Others asked Tyler why he had followed the man in the first place. The attention Tyler had wanted now felt different. He reached toward Connor. Turn it off. Connor looked at him. You wanted it live. I said turn it off. Samuel heard the embarrassment in Tyler's voice. He had heard it many times from young men standing in this very room. Boys who mistook humiliation for the end of the world because nobody had taught them what came after admitting they were wrong. Denise folded her arms. Maybe shutting off the camera is not the same as fixing what happened. Tyler looked toward Samuel. What do you want me to do? Samuel considered the question for a long moment. Outside the room, the recreation center doors opened and closed as evening visitors arrived. Somewhere down the hall, a child laughed. Samuel finally set his canvas bag on a wooden bench. First, he said, stop asking what makes this easier for you. Tyler's face tightened. Samuel's voice remained gentle. Then ask what would make it right. Tyler looked at Samuel for several seconds, then at the glowing phone in Connor's hand. The live stream had become something none of them controlled anymore. Comments moved so quickly across the screen that Connor could barely read them. But one name kept appearing again and again. Samuel Stone Brooks. Denise noticed it too. They remember you, she said quietly. Samuel did not look at the phone. People remember stories better than people. Connor frowned. Why Stone? Samuel gave a tired smile. Old nickname. Denise laughed softly. That is one way to put it. She walked toward a cabinet near the far wall and opened the glass door. Inside sat several faded programs, photographs, newspaper clippings, and a pair of old training gloves sealed in a display case. Samuel watched her carefully. You kept all that. The kids kept it, Denise said. You mattered to them. Tyler stepped closer to the cabinet. One photograph showed Samuel in his 20s beneath bright arena lights, his expression focused but calm. Another showed him years later, kneeling beside a group of children at a neighborhood fundraiser. Tyler stared at that picture longer than the others. You really stayed here after you retired? He asked. Samuel nodded. I had places I could have gone. Why did you not? Samuel looked through the glass toward the old photographs. Because when I was 16, somebody stayed for me. The room quieted. Samuel rested one hand on the wooden bench. I was angry at everything back then. Thought respect was something you took before somebody took it from you. My first coach did not agree. Tyler glanced at him. What did he say? Samuel's eyes softened. He said talent might get people to watch you, but character decides what they remember. Denise lowered her head slightly, recognizing the words. Samuel continued. Took me years to understand him. Connor finally ended the live stream. The screen went dark. For the first time since the park, there was no audience. Tyler seemed smaller without it. His shoulders relaxed, but embarrassment stayed on his face. I should not have followed you, he said. Samuel waited. Tyler swallowed. And I should not have said those things. Mason looked toward him, surprised by the admission. Samuel did not rush to rescue Tyler from the discomfort. No, he said. You should not have. Tyler nodded. The answer clearly hurt more than an easy forgiveness would have. So what now, he asked. Before Samuel could answer, Connor's phone began vibrating repeatedly. Messages. Notifications. Missed calls. Connor looked down and went pale. Tyler. What? Connor turned the screen toward him. The live stream had already been clipped and reposted. Thousands of views were climbing by the minute. Someone had tagged their high school. Someone else had tagged the athletic department. Tyler's face lost color. Delete it. It is not on my account anymore. Other people saved it. Tyler grabbed his own phone from his pocket. Notifications filled the screen. His teammates were messaging him. His coach had called twice. Then a new message appeared from his mother. Call me. Now. Tyler stared at those 3 words as if they weighed more than everything Samuel had said. This is going to ruin me, he whispered. Samuel's expression changed. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Just disappointment. No, he said. Tyler looked up. Samuel met his eyes. What you did brought consequences. What you do next decides whether it ruins you. Tyler stared at the message from his mother until the screen dimmed in his hand. Around him, the recreation center seemed suddenly too bright, every fluorescent light exposing something he wanted hidden. Connor stood near the doorway. Mason leaned against the wall with his arms folded. Denise remained beside the trophy case, watching Tyler without judgment, which somehow made the moment harder. Samuel Brooks sat on the wooden bench and adjusted the strap of his canvas bag as though he were preparing to leave. That is it? Tyler asked. Samuel looked up. What is it? You just walk away and everybody thinks I am the worst person alive. Samuel's expression did not change. I never said that. Tyler looked toward Connor. But they will. His phone vibrated again. Another teammate. Another notification. Another stranger who had seen a few minutes of his life and decided they understood all of it. Tyler swallowed. People are calling me racist. The word came out quieter than everything he had said in the park. Samuel looked at him carefully. Were the things you said based on my skin color? Tyler looked at the floor. Some of them. Then start there. Tyler's jaw tightened. I already apologized. Samuel nodded. Yes. So what else am I supposed to do? Mean it tomorrow. Tyler looked confused. Samuel stood slowly. An apology is easy when you are embarrassed. Character is what happens when the embarrassment is gone. Denise gave Samuel a small approving glance. Tyler did not. The boy turned toward the wall of photographs again, and something defensive returned to his voice. How do I even know all this is real? Connor straightened. Tyler. What? I am asking. He pointed toward the framed championship photograph. Anybody can put pictures on a wall. Denise looked stunned. Mason whispered, Man, stop. But Tyler could not. Shame had cornered him, and instead of sitting with it, he reached for the one thing that had always protected him from discomfort, another challenge. If you were really that good, Tyler said, prove it. Samuel stared at him. The room became silent again. Tyler immediately seemed to regret the words, but pride kept him from taking them back. Samuel walked toward the old ring, stopping several feet from the ropes. He placed one hand against the worn corner padding. The surface had been replaced many times since his years there, but the smell remained familiar. Canvas, leather, floor cleaner, memory. You think that is what proof looks like? Samuel asked. Tyler said nothing. Samuel turned toward him. A championship tells you who I was. His voice remained calm. What I do now tells you who I am. Tyler's eyes lowered. Samuel continued. When I was your age, I thought strength meant making sure nobody could embarrass me. I spent years learning the opposite. Connor glanced at Tyler's phone, still vibrating in his hand. Samuel nodded toward it. Right now, you have a choice. You can spend tonight explaining why everybody else is wrong, or you can ask why so many people saw something in that video you did not want to see in yourself. Tyler's face tightened. And if they never forgive me? Samuel picked up his canvas bag. You were still thinking about the audience. Tyler looked at him. Samuel's voice softened. Do the right thing when nobody is clapping. That is where you start. Then the recreation center doors opened down the hall, and a familiar adult voice called Tyler's full name. His coach had arrived. Coach Daniel Mercer stepped into the boxing room with Tyler's mother only a few seconds behind him. Tyler's face changed the moment he saw them. The confidence he had worn in the park disappeared completely. His mother, Laura Whitmore, still had her hospital identification badge clipped to her navy scrubs, and the tiredness around her eyes suggested she had left work before her shift was finished. She did not raise her voice. That frightened Tyler more than shouting would have. I watched the video, she said. Tyler looked down. Coach Mercer stood beside her, holding his phone in one hand. So did half the team. Connor and Mason moved quietly toward the wall. Samuel remained near the wooden bench, giving the family space, but Laura looked directly at him. Are you Mr. Brooks? Samuel nodded. Yes, ma'am. She drew a slow breath. I am sorry for how my son treated you. Tyler immediately looked up. Mom, I already apologized. Laura turned toward him. Then you can do it again when it is not about getting yourself out of trouble. Samuel noticed Tyler flinch at almost the same lesson he had given minutes earlier. Coach Mercer crossed his arms. Tyler, you are suspended from team activities while the school reviews what happened. Tyler's eyes widened. Coach, districts start next month. I know. I have scouts coming. I know that too. Tyler looked almost desperate. One stupid afternoon should not erase everything I worked for. Coach Mercer studied him for a moment. Nobody said it erases everything. But being talented does not excuse everything either. The words landed harder because Tyler respected the man saying them. His phone vibrated again. This time he did not look. Laura did. Your principal wants us at school tomorrow morning. Tyler rubbed both hands over his face. Everybody is going to know. Samuel spoke quietly from across the room. Everybody already knows what happened. Tyler lowered his hands. That is easy for you to say. They are all on your side. Samuel looked toward the framed photographs covering the wall. You think they were always on mine? Tyler said nothing. Samuel walked a little closer, keeping several feet between them. There were years when people decided what kind of man I was before I opened my mouth. Sometimes because I was a boxer. Sometimes because I was black. Sometimes because they wanted a simple story more than they wanted the truth. Laura's expression softened. Samuel continued. That does not make what you did smaller. It means I understand what it feels like when strangers reduce you to one thing. Tyler looked at him with surprise. Then why are you not defending me? Because understanding you and excusing you are different things. Silence settled over the room. Coach Mercer nodded slowly. Tyler stared at the floor. What happens now? Laura answered first. You face it. Coach Mercer added. You listen more than you talk. Samuel picked up his canvas bag. And when people give you a chance to show them something better, do not waste it. Tyler finally looked at him. Do you think I deserve another chance? Samuel paused at the doorway. I think everybody deserves the opportunity to become better. Tyler's shoulders loosened slightly. Then Samuel finished the thought. But an opportunity is not the same thing as permission to avoid consequences. Outside the boxing room, evening had settled over Riverside Park. The bright live stream was gone now. No cheering comments. No strangers watching in real time. Just a 17-year-old boy standing beside his mother, his coach, and the truth he could no longer swipe away. The next morning, Tyler sat in the principal's office with his hands locked together between his knees while the muted television on the wall showed a local morning report about the video from Riverside Park. His name was not displayed, but everyone in the room knew exactly who the 17-year-old in the blurred footage was. Laura sat beside him. Coach Mercer stood near the window. Samuel Brooks had been invited, but had chosen a chair near the door instead of the center of the room. Principal Ellen Walsh folded her hands over a yellow legal pad. The school has reviewed the video, spoken with your coach, and contacted the recreation center, she said. Tyler nodded without looking up. You will remain suspended from team activities for 3 weeks. You will also complete 40 hours of community service. Tyler finally raised his eyes. Where? Principal Walsh glanced toward Samuel. Riverside Community Athletic Center, if Mr. Brooks agrees. Tyler turned sharply. Samuel did not react. You want me working there? Tyler asked. The center agreed to supervise, Principal Walsh said. Mr. Brooks did not request this punishment. Your school did. Tyler looked at Samuel again. And you are okay with it? Samuel rested both hands on the head of his walking cane, something Tyler had not seen him carry the day before. I am okay with you having somewhere useful to put your time. Tyler looked away. Everyone thinks this is some lesson. Samuel's voice stayed calm. It is only a lesson if you learn something. Laura closed her eyes briefly, tired but relieved that Samuel had not answered with anger. Principal Walsh explained the remaining conditions. Tyler would write a formal apology, attend a student conduct meeting, and meet weekly with Coach Mercer before returning to the team. None of it sounded dramatic. That was what made it real. Consequences rarely arrived with music. They came as schedules, signatures, uncomfortable conversations, and mornings when you wished yesterday had never happened. When the meeting ended, Tyler waited until the others had stepped into the hallway. Samuel remained behind, slowly adjusting the cuff of his brown jacket. Mr. Brooks, Tyler said. Samuel looked at him. Why did you agree to let me work there? Because the building gave me somewhere to become useful when I was young. Tyler frowned. You could have told them you did not want me around. I could have. After everything I said? Samuel nodded. Tyler stared at him. I do not get it. Samuel walked toward the door, then stopped. Mercy does not mean pretending nothing happened. Tyler stayed silent. Samuel turned slightly. Mercy without consequences teaches nothing. The words settled into the small office. Tyler looked toward the television, where the old footage had already been replaced by weather and traffic. Yesterday, strangers had watched him for entertainment. Today, they had moved on. Samuel noticed where he was looking. There is your audience, he said. Gone already. Tyler swallowed. Samuel opened the door. Now you get to find out who you are without them. 3 days later, Tyler arrived at Riverside Community Athletic Center at 7 in the morning wearing jeans, an old sweatshirt, and none of the confidence he had carried into the park. Denise handed him a mop, a bucket, and a ring of storage room keys. You start with the floor, she said. Tyler looked through the glass toward the boxing room. Samuel was already inside, setting out water bottles for a group of children arriving for an after-school program later that day. Tyler hesitated. Is he going to coach me? Denise smiled faintly. That depends on what you think coaching means. Tyler pushed the mop across the worn hallway floor. Through the glass, Samuel glanced at him once, then returned to his work. No applause. No humiliation. No camera. Just two people beginning the slow work of becoming something different. 3 months later, the first cold edge of winter had settled over Philadelphia, and Riverside Community Athletic Center smelled of rubber mats, floor cleaner, and the hot chocolate Denise kept behind the front desk for children arriving after school. Tyler Whitmore no longer needed anyone to remind him where the mop was stored. His 40 required hours had ended weeks earlier, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays he still showed up before 4 o'clock, changed into an old gray sweatshirt, and helped set out water bottles before the youth program began. Nobody had asked him to continue. That mattered to Samuel Brooks more than Tyler knew. Samuel sat near the boxing room doorway with his cane resting against his chair, watching a group of children practice footwork drills without contact. Tyler moved between them, correcting cones and encouraging the youngest kids when they became frustrated. The transformation had not happened overnight. For the first 2 weeks, Tyler had barely spoken. He cleaned floors, carried equipment, and left exactly when his assigned time ended. Then one afternoon, a 9-year-old boy named Marcus had asked him for help tying the laces on a pair of training shoes. Tyler had helped without thinking. The next day, Marcus looked for him again. Small things followed. Tyler learned names. He stopped checking his phone every few minutes. He began arriving early. Coach Mercer eventually allowed him back at school practices, but Tyler never told the children about the team or the scouts who had started calling again. At the center, none of that seemed important. That afternoon, Marcus stood near a row of jump ropes while 2 older boys laughed because he kept stepping on his own feet. Samuel heard it from across the room. Before he could rise, Tyler was already walking over. The 2 boys went quiet when he approached. 3 months earlier, Tyler might have joined them just to make sure the attention stayed somewhere else. Now he looked at Marcus, picked up the jump rope, and handed it back to him. "Everybody looks awkward before they learn," Tyler said. "Try again." One of the older boys smirked. "He is terrible." Tyler looked at him. His voice stayed calm. "Then help him get better or leave him alone. No anger. No performance. No camera." The boys exchanged a glance and moved away. Marcus tried again. The rope caught under his shoes. Tyler reset it. "Slower," he said. "Do not worry about looking good. Find the rhythm first." On the 3rd attempt, Marcus cleared the rope twice. Then 3 times. His face brightened. Samuel watched from the doorway, his hand resting on the curved handle of his cane. Denise appeared beside him carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. She offered him one. "You seeing what I am seeing?" Samuel accepted the cup. "I see a boy learning." Denise smiled. "Which one?" Samuel looked at Tyler. "Both." His gaze drifted toward the far wall, where the old photograph of Samuel Stone Brooks still hung beneath the fluorescent lights. The championship belt looked enormous across the waist of the young man in the picture. Once, Samuel had believed that photograph represented the strongest version of himself. Age had taught him differently. Across the room, Tyler crouched beside Marcus and patiently showed him where to place his feet. Golden evening light slipped through the high windows and stretched across the worn floor. Samuel thought of Evelyn's memorial bench outside, of 2 coffees every Thursday, of a teenager with a phone who had once mistaken humiliation for entertainment. Tyler looked toward Samuel and gave him a small nod. Samuel returned it. Nothing more was needed. He had spent his youth learning when to move, when to strike, when to protect himself. The hardest lesson had taken much longer. Real power was knowing what you were capable of and choosing what kind of man you wanted to become. Samuel lifted his coffee as the jump rope touched the floor in a steady rhythm. Once, twice, 3 times. And this time, nobody was laughing.